What do Heated Rivalry, Harvard, and happiness have in common? That sounds like the beginning of a strange academic conference of some kind. One session on queer hockey romance, one session on the longest running study of happiness. But stay with me because today's episode is really built around one question. What is the key to a fulfilling life? The thing Shane and Ilya slowly figure out. The Harvard happiness study continues to point us toward. I'm not going to give you the full answer yet, but I'll give you the first clue. And it has to do with Shane and Ilya. So picture them in this scene, or these scenes, where they're shown together in tremendous bliss and happiness and joy. What's the common denominator here? Save that for later. Welcome back to the Good Life Lab and my Wednesday podcast, Happy Heated Rivalry Hump Day. And I'm in the midst of this 4 or 5 part series I'm calling Heated Nordic Happiness, where we take the emotional lives of fictional hockey players way too seriously, then hold them up against positive psychology principles and the ancient practices of the Scandinavian countries, which include Sweden and Finland, Denmark and Iceland, all Nordic countries, which are almost always in the top 10 of global happiness. And if you do love this Shane and Ilya / positive psychology commentary, please subscribe. I'm just a couple thousand away from my next milestone. Yes, I'm shooting for 5,000 soon. So please subscribe if you haven't. So we have talked about other Nordic principles of happiness, hygge and friluftsliv, the last couple of weeks. If you haven't seen those, please check the description below. Today we're talking about lykke. So I'm going to ask my friend Marcus from Copenhagen to share a little bit more about what this looks like from his perspective as a Danish person and what it looks like, from his culture and also personally. So here's Marcus.
It's like a cross between the word joy and happiness, I'd say. I'll try to give you an example of lykke, I guess. My partner would describe our relationship as lykke. It's something like you have this thing that's giving you joy and makes you feel happy. That's a wonderful thing that just puts you in the state of bliss. Lykke for me could be something like just going on a walk around the lake and meeting some new friends. We have this thing here in Copenhagen where I'm meeting a couple guys every Sunday, and there's no signups or anything, but we just walk around the lake together. And I usually make a new friend every single Sunday, which is a form of lykke for me. The conversations we have and just the feeling I have after if we've actually gotten outside, we've walked for 5 kilometers, so I've gotten some sort of exercise and movement, and we sometimes get into some deeper conversations. And sometimes it's just surface level, like what do you do and what do you work with? Other times it can be about some kind of hobby that we really like or something that we connect on. Like it could be what exercise does to your body or something like completely random that we end up talking about. So that would be another example of lykke. It is really just the feeling of joy and happiness, I'd say, and feeling blissful. Those 3 words are probably the best thing that best way of describing lykke, I would say.
So Marcus shared a few things that resonate with me personally, but also as a positive psychology researcher. He talks about the personal kind of connection to joy and bliss and this concept of lykke, but also the things that he does to cultivate lykke, which I'll talk about both. But how does all this relate to Harvard? What does Harvard have to do with happiness? Well, since 1938, actually, the Harvard study of adult development has followed people across their lives now, 80 plus years, trying to understand what actually helps human beings flourish. And not just who becomes successful, because they looked at people from all walks of life, not just men at Harvard, but men in the surrounding communities in poorer areas. They've also included their families. So it's not just people who are successful, not just people who look impressive from the outside, but people who become happy, healthy, and fulfilled over time, regardless of their economic standing. And again, the answer points in the same direction. It's not fame, not money, not even achievement. It's something much more intimate. It's something Shane and Ilya, in their own messy, stubborn, closeted way, are learning scene by scene. But before I name what Harvard and Heated Rivalry and happiness have in common, I'm going to share a bit about my story and how I came out of a dark place in my life. Because I did not come to happiness research in a detached academic way. Even though I've been a college professor, a researcher, and still a therapist, it's much more personal to me. I really came to this field of positive psychology as a lifeline. I was 45, so I had my job, my conservative Christian higher ed job. I was vice president and then became president for a while. And then in that process, I was a celibate homosexual. My belief system was that I did not want to be gay. I was trying to change that. Tried that for 3 decades. And I shared that with my colleagues. I wasn't a practicing homosexual. I wasn't gay and identifying as gay, even though I had attractions to men. I was trying to be celibate and true to my faith and my tradition. But I shared my struggle with my friends, and I was about to publish a book about my struggle, not about being gay, but just about the struggle that I was having. I was encouraged not to publish it, so I published under a pseudonym, even though I didn't tell them I was publishing it. At some point, one of my colleagues who I confided in resigned and eventually wrote a letter back to the board of trustees naming this celibate homosexual that was in leadership. And I was the only single person in leadership, so they knew it was me. And so that led to me resigning and trying a different path. And so at 45, I came across this research in Barnes & Noble, and it was in The Economist magazine. And it basically said that as we get older, we get happier. And the turning point is around 46. So I was 45, turning 46 the next month. And so I decided to create this project. I had done a lot of projects for myself to try to change some part of my life or learn something. So I did this year-long project, and I called it Project 46. And it had 3 intentions to it. Love in life, peace with God, and a job I liked were my 3 intentions. Love in life, I was dating men for the first time, but I wanted to find a partner. And I wanted to also build a community and not just rely on one person for a sense of happiness and connection. A job I liked. So I was essentially unemployed. I was doing freelance. So I wanted to get back into higher education. And the third intention was to have peace with God. So the peace with God piece was really about trying to reconcile my faith in some way, trying to make peace with what I believed at the time, even though I was kind of at odds with that. So that was that third piece. And so those 3 intentions really set the agenda for my year. And I really, around each of those areas, had specific goals I wanted to achieve. So it took me at least a year, a little bit more. I eventually found a partner who I've been with for 14 years now. My peace with God, that's resolved itself, not in the way I expected, but I went through an atheistic phase, an agnostic kind of phase is where I am a little bit now, but I'm more curious, just open to whatever might be out there. And then the last part was a job I liked. That actually, at the time, it took, I think, maybe 2 years to find a job back in higher education. I retired from that role in higher education a couple of years ago. Those 3 intentions really set my agenda and my direction. And it took me a while, but they came true. But ultimately, Project 46 was really a happiness project. I just was trying to be happier in these 3 areas. And really what it came down to for me, each area was really about connection, connecting to something greater than myself, which had to do with God and transcendence. It's connecting to a purpose, which had to do with finding a job I liked, and connecting to other people, which was about finding a partner and a community, and also connecting to myself, really just trying to be happier, more fulfilled during this period of time. What I learned as part of my Project 46 is that happiness is not found. It's cultivated, like my friend Marcus said. It's built relationship by relationship, intention by intention, small brave choice by small brave choice. That's the essence of lykke, the Nordic concept that I've been talking about. That's the essence of what I learned in my Project 46. And also, maybe not so ironically, the Harvard study, the 80+ year Harvard study, which essentially has led me to the work I do now, my entrance into positive psychology and working with people to help them create their own happiness projects, if you will. I work mostly with men and gay men, and just as they come out, as they try to manage their lives in direction of vocation and relationships. So please, if you're coming out or trying to deal with your identity as a gay man, struggling with that, or just trying to find your direction in life, please reach out to me. I'll provide my information below, and you can contact me for a free session. But again, before we get to the ultimate connection between Heated Rivalry, Harvard, and happiness, what is the connecting point there? I'm going to talk a little bit more about Shane and Ilya, because one of the reasons their story hits so hard is that they're not just simply falling in love. They're really learning how to have a flourishing, happy, meaningful existence. And those are not the same thing, really. A lot of romance gives us chemistry. Heated Rivalry gives us something deeper. It gives us 2 men who have spent years surviving through control, performance, competition, humor, distance, and secrecy. Happiness begins when performance starts to fall away. Think about their quiet moments together, their hotel rooms, the cottage, the awards show bathroom scene where Shane confronts Ilya and Shane slowly softens in Ilya's presence. The small rituals, the private jokes, the way they become each other's safest place before they even understand or fully admit what that really means. And that is where Heated Rivalry, Harvard, and happiness begin to point toward the same answer. But before I tell you the final answer, how those 3 things connect, I'm going to share with you that framework that helped me navigate these difficult times in my life. So it's basically the acronym COMPASS. Each letter stands for a different coordinating point, I call it, or step in this process of developing a good life project, something that can point you in the right direction, like my Project 46. So if you would, stay tuned for more information about the COMPASS framework and the COMPASS journal and how you can get a hold of one to help you walk through these different aspects of having a healthier, happier, more meaningful life. So one more time, before I give you this final answer on the connection between Heated Rivalry, Harvard, and happiness, let me share with you one prompt that maybe you can journal about for yourself this week. If this year for you coming up, if you finally move toward the life that you really want, the life that you feel would be more flourishing in some way, What would be your 3 intentions? You know, my 3 intentions were love and life, peace with God, a job I liked. Those became anchors, coordinating points for me, things to look forward to help me kind of stay focused. What would be 3 maybe happiness intentions for your life? And then what is one small, brave move in that direction? What would that look like? What are the 3 intentions? And then what are the small steps that you can take to move in the direction of those intentions? So if you would, take 5 minutes. All it takes, 5 minutes to write it down in your journal. And then tell somebody you trust. Recruit them as allies to help you become a healthier, happier person. Then that is essentially the beginning of your happiness project. So finally, to what I asked you at the beginning of this podcast episode, what do Heated Rivalry, Harvard, and happiness have in common? The foundation to having a flourishing, fulfilling, happy life. Here's the answer. Relationships. Not just romance, not just finding the one, but the deep human experience of being known, accepted, challenged, supported, and loved into the fuller version of yourself. This is what the Harvard study is showing over 80 plus years. This is at the center of the Nordic happiness practice, lykke. This is what I've learned in my life as a positive psychology researcher, but also as somebody, as a gay man who was isolated from people and kept my secret for a long time. As I started to open up and started to share myself with others, the happiness started to become more prominent in my life. The contentment, the joy, those things became more real to me as I was able to be more connected to other people. And that is what we see in Ilya and Shane as they are confiding in each other, as they are moving past just the romance. They're finding a deeper and truer sense of connection and happiness. And so that's it. If you want a happy, healthy life and you want to kind of like weed whack your way through all the research that I've been sharing with you, it boils down to really just one thing: have good, healthy relationships. So I'll see you next week for at least one more episode in the series of Heated Nordic Happiness. And then we'll move on to what I think is going to be a more exciting series from my perspective is, what if Ilya and Shane were my clients? What would I do? And then I'm going to walk you through what I've been talking about, this compass framework, with them as clients, with myself as a client when I was younger, kind of what I would do as myself. And I think that'll take us a few weeks just kind of talking about that. What if Ilya and Shane were my clients? What if I was my own client as a younger person, as a younger gay man? What would I do for myself? So that's the next series is coming up. In the meantime, have a great week and I'll see you next time.